Did y'all know Catholics are a bunch of freaks? And I'm not talking about the good kind of freaky either. Disclaimer, I'm not even Catholic, so if I get some information wrong or I trigger a bunch of Catholics, don't come at me. You see, Catholics like to do this thing where they dismember the body parts of saint and then venerate said body parts. They're called Catholic relics. And they're actually highly sought after in many Catholic churches for a variety of reasons. Now let's get into the good stuff. Let's talk about some of the most insane and weirdest Catholic relics out there. Starting off strong with Jesus's foreskin. Following Jewish tradition, Jesus was circumcised 8 days after his birth, and apparently they kept it. The earliest record of the holy prepuce comes in the year 800, when Charlemagne claimed an angel gifted it to him. At one point during the Middle Ages, up to 18 different churches claimed to have the holy foreskin. But now, almost all of them have been lost or destroyed, with the most recent one being stolen in 1983. There are also a ton of relics that are just saints' heads. But the creepiest one out there is probably St. Catherine of Siena. Her 644-year-old mummified head is on display in a basilica in Italy. But the most popular head is probably the head of St. John the Baptist, who's often considered the forerunner to Jesus. Sorry, I meant to say heads, plural, because 3 different churches claim to have it. For all my Marvel fans out there, there's St. Teresa of Avila's incorrupt hand. Her hand is held in a reliquary that looks strikingly like the Infinity Gauntlet. I'm not sure how to interpret that one. One that I find personally kind of cool is the blood of St. Januarius. The blood miraculously liquefies several times a year, but when it doesn't, many people interpret it as an omen of misfortune. Now, as you'd probably expect, some of the most famous relics are the ones associated with Jesus, the crown of thorns, the nails that held him to the cross itself. But there are some relics associated with Jesus that haven't even been discovered yet, like the spear that pierced his side during the crucifixion, or the Holy Grail, which is the cup that he used during the Last Supper. I low-key kind of want a relic for myself. Be a great party trick, pull out some old guy's bones at the function. But, shockingly, the sale of Catholic relics is forbidden by the church. Relics are historically believed to have miraculous healing powers, such as healing of the sick. Relics can also be a great source of income for the communities that have them, attracting pilgrims and tourists from all over the place. But this wasn't always the case. Back in the early days of the church, the remains of saints and martyrs were often left undisturbed in their resting places. However, over time, many people wanted to be buried next to these holy individuals, and even began attributing miracles to the dust from their graves. Now you may be asking yourself, why are they being a bunch of little freaks and displaying body parts? Well, Catholics basically believe that saints in heaven intercede for those on earth, which basically means that when you pray to a saint, you're basically asking them to put in a good word to the big guy for you. Relics became very popular. I guess they were like the Labubus of the time, and they began popping up everywhere. However, this also meant there was a ton of counterfeits floating around, as there was no way to distinguish between a real relic and a counterfeit. One religious figure at the time said there was enough wood from the cross to build a ship, and that some saints had multiple limbs and even heads. Nowadays, in order to be displayed publicly, a relic has to be authenticated by the church. Now, there are basically 3 classes of relics, with first class being items directly associated with the life of Christ, like the crown of thorns, pieces of the cross, stuff like that. Or it can be the physical remains of a saint, like its bones, blood, or even hair. Second class relics are items that a saint owned and used frequently, like a rosary or a crucifix. And finally, a third class relic is any objects that's been touched to a first or second class relic. I don't know, I just thought that was something interesting to learn about. I hope you learned something too. Hope you found it interesting. Subscribe!